morning, everyone. Welcome to Gentle Yoga. As I just told those joining us live, we're going to start on our backs. So just take your time to head down to the floor. These first couple moments of your practice, we're just going to use to connect. Allow that physical body to ease its way down into the floor. Let your breath get a little bit slower. Be a little bit more aware of how you're breathing. Softening the muscles of your face, your shoulders, back, hips, everything just settling down into the floor. These first few moments of practice are about grounding, about giving yourself time to settle everything down into earth. So let the inhale become longer now, really focusing on that inhale breath, taking it into account maybe of 4, and then allowing the exhale to follow, same length or maybe even a little bit longer on that exhale. Your hands can be rested on the floor, perhaps away from the body. Your legs can be 2 straight lines down the mat, or maybe it feels better to you to have some bent knees. You might begin to add a little bit of movement to the body. Perhaps your head starts to sway a little bit side to side, almost as if you had some paint on the tip of your nose and you're just smearing that or painting right across the ceiling with the tip of your nose. You might start to add some movement to your feet or your toes. If your legs are long, maybe your feet sway a little bit side to side. If your knees are bent, maybe you bend one knee, lift it a little higher up the floor, and kind of wiggle the toes or roll the ankle, and then place that foot back down. Just some small movements, as if we were just kind of saying hello to different parts of our body slowly. Now, if your legs have been long, I'm going to go ahead and start to invite you to bring your feet a little closer to your body. So bending those knees and walking them in. Let your knees windshield wiper right and left. Perhaps your hands lay on the belly. Take a little bit of spinal twisting here, just easing. Let go. Once those knees are back to center, we'll pause there, inviting the right knee in towards your belly, maybe hugging around the front edge of the shin or on the back of the thigh. And now really wake up your ankle. So give your ankle some rotation, pointing and flexing the toes. And again, that knee can be hugged in tight or it can be a little looser. Take that right knee slightly off towards the right edge of your mat, getting into the inner thigh. You may switch to only holding on with one arm or one hand, that right hand. Left hand might come down to pelvis or just kind of near that left hip. Just a little pressure there. Perfect. Take your time to bring that right knee back to center. Switch the grip to the back of the thigh and then just send this right foot up towards the sky. Now you can certainly have a bent right knee if that feels better in your body, pointing and flexing the toes or rolling around the ankles. Here again, you'll feel your shin and your calf wake up. And then I want you to take this right foot that's in the sky, bend the right knee, and begin to bring your right ankle over to your left knee. It's a figure 4 shape. It's going to be a kind of a simple one because this is early in the practice. So if that feels okay to let it make connection right there above your knee, just let yourself kind of sway a little bit side to side, maybe even send the palms of your hands down to your hip creases where your legs meet your upper body and kind of massage right there across your lap. If that shape is a little too big for you, you certainly can bring that foot down and just crisscross near the ankles and just let that right knee fall towards the right edge of your mat. Perfect. Unwinding from that shape, we'll bring both feet down to the ground. Arms will reach up overhead and then towards the wall behind you. So you're making your arms nice and long. You can stay right here, or if you feel okay, maybe letting both legs go long down the mat. Make your body as long as it can become, pointing through your toes, reaching through your fingers, as if you're taking that first stretch of the day. They sometimes show in cartoons, the character takes that big morning stretch. That's what we're taking here on our mats. Pointing through toes or rolling ankles, maybe letting your head sway side to side. And then we'll bring ourselves back to those bent knees. So maybe one knee at a time. So we've got both feet on the earth. Left knee comes in towards your belly. Go ahead and reach for it. So maybe hands come again to the shin or to the back of the thigh, and you just kind of rock around here on your low back. Massaging those internal organs as we hug that knee in, just aiding in a little digestion this morning. Back of the head is loose, shoulders are loose. Let go of that tension you're holding on to in your face by closing the eyes, softening the lips, the cheeks, the chin. Might feel good to hug this left knee towards the left edge of your mat, opening for that inner thigh. Maybe right hand even comes down and places itself on your right hip. Taking your time, we'll bring that left knee back to the middle and then switch your grip. Hand goes to the back of the left thigh, lifting that left foot up towards the sky. Then just take your time. Same as before, pointing and flexing or rolling the ankle. Let that shin and calf wake up. Notice that when you take bigger shapes, oftentimes your shoulders start to float towards your ears. So see if you can let those shoulders drop. Left foot that's in the sky is now going to come towards that right knee. Create that same figure 4 shape. Hands might come down, heels of the hands rather, kind of pushing into your lap, right at that crease where the top half meets your bottom half. And sway a little bit side to side. Coming out of that figure 4 shape, feet will go to earth, hands reach up overhead. One more big long body stretch. Maybe you do this with bent knees, or if it feels okay in your body, your legs might go long, either one at a time or both long. Point through those toes. Let your legs become active. Point through your fingers. Feel the muscles of your calves, your quads, glutes, everything kind of waking up this morning as we make our body as long as we can. And then soften those toes, soften the ankles, the shins, the calves, the quads, the glutes. Bend the knees and walk them closer to the body. This time, perhaps both knees come in towards your belly, hands coming around the front edges, giving it a nice hug, and we rock side to side. Two options to come to seat. You can roll to your right hand side and push into the ground, or you can kind of rock and roll along the spine until you come up to a seat. And we're going to be seated for just a couple moments, so if you want to reach for a blanket or a block to put underneath of your seat, you certainly can. I'm going to turn kind of sideways here just so that I can see you guys a little easier. Once you find that tall seat, let's really focus on posture. So lift your chest up a little higher, maybe kind of pull your cushions out from underneath of you so that your sits bones really feel connected. If sitting like this, crisscross, makes you have a rounded back, switch your legs out a little bit. See if maybe you pull them out from underneath of you, if you can sit a little taller. Perfect. And once you feel ready, close the eyes and focus on your neck here just for a moment. We're going to turn so that our nose faces off towards the right wall. And then imagining you have kind of a Sharpie or a little magic marker, draw some circles on that right wall. So perhaps they go clockwise, and then maybe you go counterclockwise. Taking your time. Finish out whatever circle you're completing right now, and then bring your head back to center. Let the chin drop down to your chest, relaxing those shoulders from your ears. Little sway of chin side to side, almost as if you're drawing with your chin right along the top edge of your shirt. Inhale to bring the head back up over spine. Reposition again if you feel like you need to kind of get comfortable into the earth. And then let your nose go the other way this time. So turning to face that left wall. Small circles with the tip of the nose. Maybe clockwise a few. And then counterclockwise. Perfect. Finishing out those circles, our nose will come back to center. Drop it down to your chest again. Sweep it side to side. Perfect. Head comes back up over spine. Give yourself some shoulder rolls, lifting those shoulders towards your ears, and then just settling them back down. 2 more times. Shoulders lift. Shoulders settle. Shoulders lift. And then they settle. All right, we're going to move ourselves on to hands and knees next. If you want to use a blanket, go ahead and reach for that. If you don't need one, that's fine too. But we are going to do a few knee things in a row. So if you want to take the time to kind of set up a blanket, great. If you didn't grab one and you'd rather have one from the prop room, you're going to basically just use it as a cushion today. So you're welcome to go grab one if you would like. Wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. We're going to just look for a nice tabletop to start with. And then invite in that simple cat-cow. We're all familiar with that. So just let the belly drop down towards the earth on your inhale. Chin and tail lift. Exhale breath. Go ahead and round however much your spine likes for that cat pose. So link it with your breath. Take your time. Hands are kind of corkscrewed down into the earth, but we're lifting out of those wrists instead of compressing down into our hands. Let that breath be steady and slow. The next time you hit that angry cat spine, let's find your first child's pose of this morning's practice. So the spine lifts up nice and high, and then we start to look for whatever version of child's pose works for you. So some of us are going to keep knees together, others are going to go knees a little wider to make space for belly or chest, or maybe just the hips like that better. Some of you are reaching for your block. If you want that, feel free to bring a block either in as a cushion to support underneath the head, or if you know you have a little difficulty getting these hips down lower, sometimes putting a block back on your heels gives a little space for something to catch from the top half and the bottom half. This child's pose certainly doesn't need to be active, guys. So if you want to drop those elbows down into the ground, your forehead down into the ground, or onto a support of some type, feel free. You know, allergies have been pretty rough this season, so if you got any kind of tension in your forehead, your facial muscles, just go ahead and try to release that, maybe massaging right at the middle of the face into the mat, right in between the eyebrows there. You have option to keep hands right at the center of the mat, or you can begin to turn this into a little bit of a side body stretch. If you want to walk your hands towards the right edge of the mat, or maybe even off onto the floor on the right side, feel free. That stretch will then start to move itself down your left side body. Hands begin to walk back towards center, and then over to the right side of the mat, sitting into that right hip. Left side of the mat, sitting into that left hip, depending on what direction you went first. Hands taking their time to move back to center. We'll come out of this child's pose with an inhale breath. And then I just want to see if you can walk yourself nice and tall onto high knees. So hands will just kind of walk back, find themselves walking up the knees, and bring yourself to a nice tall chest. I'm going to switch and come this direction just so I can see a little better. Inhale, reach the hands up nice and tall. Exhale, bring them down to the heart. So you're going to open up your shoulders here with some movement. Inhaling, reaching. Exhaling, bringing it back. Let's go again. Take your time, maybe slower or faster than me. Inhale and stay high this time. Keep those hands up. Right hand reaches for your left wrist. Get a little height out of that left wrist, and then just take it slightly over. Softening elbows if the shoulder feels a little tight this morning. Inhale, bring that back to center, switch sides, opposite wrist, a little bit of height, and then over. Make that your tallest spine before you start to tip. So don't let your chin and your chest drop. See if we can keep that up. Inhale back to center, and then sweep the hands like they're going down the sides of the walls. Shoulders lift, shoulders release. Hands coming into the heart. We're going to take just a slow twist of the spine. So you're going to gaze slowly over this right shoulder as your fingertips turn in that right direction. Perfect. Hands take their time to come back to center, and then the same thing. Stay nice and tall, slow motion, twisting to the other side. Spine moves 6 directions. You guys just hit all 6, bringing it back to center. Take your hands down now to the floor. Go back and find 3 cat-cows. So belly drops towards the earth on your inhale. Spine rounds on your exhale. Down on the inhale. Rounds on the exhale. Last one. back to just a traditional table. We're gonna see if we can reach our left hand straight out in front. Maybe your right leg extends long behind. This is a balancing table or bird dog pose. If it feels too big this morning, just bring that hand down to the mat and focus just on your lower half, or bring your knee down and focus just on your upper half. You can always cut that pose in half. One more breath. Perfect. Hand comes down to earth. That lifted leg's gonna come down, but we're gonna curl our toes under. Let that foot touch the mat so your leg is still nice and long, and then push through that heel. Give yourself a nice calf stretch. Leg that's been long, it's gonna lift up off the floor and then step to the opposite side of the mat. So if you have the right leg lifted, you're gonna step towards your left corner. Maybe even look over that left shoulder, feel a nice side body stretch, outer edge of that right hip. Perfect. Bring that right foot back to center, and then it's gonna step forward, but instead of taking it between our hands, let's see if we can take it up towards the pinky side of this front hand. So you might need to help it. I need to kind of come up off the earth a little bit and figure out where that foot should be. If you want to reach for a set of blocks or even just one block to put in the middle of your mat, this right foot is towards the right edge of your mat, so it's a little further over. You might even turn your toes outward at a slight angle to match your knee, and then you're just going to kind of lean into that front leg. So again, this block can be really high for an assistant here. Kind of lunging into that knee, getting a nice good opener for that back hip flexor. Of course, hands can stay on the ground. And if it's too big, come out of that shape for a moment, let the knee relax, and breathe in. Try again. Knowing your own limits, knowing there's a huge difference between a stretch and pain. So if we're feeling any kind of pain in the body, we're going to come off. Work. Start to ease out of that shape. This foot's going to come back and we're going to switch sides. So now we're going to change up our bird dog a little bit. Right hand reaches out, left toes go long, and you take that balancing table again. I feel like I need to disclose, those of you who are at home or watching this playback, my toes are on the wall. That's why I look so solid. You're like, whoa, you can really hold that. Nope, I'm cheating. It feels awesome. All right, stay in that shape, one more breath, and then you'll relax that back foot. Hand comes down to ground, toes come down, take that big calf stretch that you just took before, pushing through that heel. Big stretch of that back leg. Every time I do this stretch, it just reminds me of Charlie horses and cramps that I would get in my legs, particularly when pregnant. But anytime I get dehydrated, they still kind of creep back in. This is a wonderful stretch to keep that area of the body nourished. Reminding us to drink lots of water throughout the summer months, keeping our body hydrated. Lifting that foot up off the floor, go ahead and step to the opposite edge. So if this has been your left leg, you're now stepping towards your right edge of the mat, maybe even off onto the floor, looking over that right shoulder. Another really great stretch for side body. Outer hip. Two places that carry a lot of tension, ready to be released. Take your time to bring this foot back to the center of the mat, and then just as you did before, it's going to step up towards this pinky side. So again, if you need to reach for some props, a little assistance, you need to kind of bring it through and help it, that's okay too. You don't get bonus points for being graceful, it's just how you get there is how you get there. Hands perhaps on a block. You might be kind of moving in and out. Some of us like a real static pose, which just means we get there and we stay there. Others need a little bit of dynamic movement. As long as we're not bouncing too aggressively here, you can add a little bit of movement in that space. Coming in and out of the pose. See what feels good in your neck. If head hanging down to the ground is releasing some tension in your shoulder, great. If you feel like it's putting tension back in, see what you can do with your neck so that you don't feel tight in the shoulders and the neck. Holding for one more breath here in this lizard shape. Perfect. Take your time to start to bring that foot that was forward back. You're in your table, child's pose is waiting for you. If you'd rather take down dog and get off your knees for a moment, you're certainly welcome to turn yourself into that upside down V as an optional shape to get up off the floor for a second. Or if child's pose feels more accessible today, that's fine too. Wherever you decide to go in these few moments of breath, it's completely up to you. You can go back and forth, you can have both. Those of us who are in down dog, go ahead and drop yourself back to knees. I'm going to give you two options for standing. Now, the first option will be very traditional, something that just feels like you're getting yourself up off the floor to a standing posture, just kind of crawling your way up, using your inhale to stand up. Second option is a little more challenging, but I think you can all handle it. We're just going to curl our toes under, and we're going to walk our hands back until we look like we're almost in a squat. And then use your inhale to only lift your hips. Exhale. And then use your next inhale to stand the rest of the way up. Bring your hands to your heart. All right. If you've had a blanket hanging out in the middle of your mat, you can either reach down or just kind of kick it off to the side for a moment. And we're going to take a couple steps and get ourselves towards the top fourth of the mat, somewhere up there in the top section. Root those feet down into ground. They're going to feel happy to be off their knees, happy to be rooted down into the earth. Feet about hip distance or maybe a little closer. Bring the hands into your heart. Elevate the shoulders towards your ears and then relax everything down into the floor. Pressing through the bottoms of the feet, feel ignited, strong, engaged through your leg muscles. Pull your belly button into your spine. Wrap those ribs around the body. Breathe. I want you to think about your fingers like a bouquet of flowers. So as you inhale, try to smell or breathe in through the nose. And now fingers are candles. Use an exhale breath to blow those out. It doesn't have to be a real aggressive breath, but just a gentle blowing of the candles over those fingertips. More nice and solid feet into earth, strong legs. Fantastic. Hands drop down to your side, soften the legs. Inhale to lift the hands above the head, and then you get just a chair pose here. Turn on some heat in the legs, bend the knees. Hands can extend out nice and long, or maybe they become kind of like lotus hands so that your shoulders are a little more relaxed. And we'll hold for another breath. Perfect. Take your time. Bring your hands down towards the earth. Exhale. Bend those knees. Inhale, come up halfway. Make your spine nice and flat and long. Exhale, fold. Now use your inhale strong to bring yourself back to a standing posture. Palm to palm meets above the head. Hands come down and find your heart. Similar to what we did when we were on our knees, hands will reach up nice and high above the head. Take your right hand to grab your left wrist, and then give yourself that same side body lean. Back to center, switch up the grip. Opposite hand to wrist. to center. Hands come down and find your heart. Simple twist over that right shoulder, just as we did when we were on our knees. Back to center. Exhaling when you twist. Inhaling when we bring ourselves back to the middle section. And now feet will separate as wide as the hips, hands drop to knees, standing cat-cow. Inhale, belly comes through, chin lifts. Exhale, round the back, round the spine. 2 more. Making those quads work for you a little bit. Getting a nice relaxing stretch for the back without having to be on our knees. Last one. Beautiful, stand back up nice and tall, hands above head, palm to palm. Exhale, find chair one more time, bend the knees. Arms can stay long and extended, or they can get a little softer. One more breath. Now fold towards your toes. Maybe this time you turn it into ragdoll. Right hand towards your left elbow, left hand towards your right elbow. You might even sway a little bit here, side to side. Staying nice and connected to that breath. All right, use your inhale to come up, maybe all the way or just halfway to start. It's up to you. Always inhaling when we bring ourselves to standing. And just see where your body feels. Let it connect to the earth. Get up here again to the front portion of your mat. And then we're gonna play with a little bit of warrior. So I'm gonna switch directions so I don't confuse you or myself. Right foot steps back, and then you could turn this right foot now so it's parallel with the back of your mat. Your left knee is bent. Arms are gonna reach out to the sides, and we take a nice warrior. So you're either gazing straight forward towards me or towards this side wall, or whatever direction works for those of you at home. Take your front hands, flip it towards the ceiling, and then imagine kind of smearing paint along the wall out in front, and then it goes all the way along those ceiling tiles over your head as your back arm kind of drops towards that back leg. Perfect. Back to your warrior 2. Maybe find side angle if that feels good. The elbow might drop towards this knee. Back hand does the same thing, smears paint, and then see if you can straighten from the shoulder to the elbow, to the fingertips. Reach. Beautiful. Let's go one more time through that same dance. So match it with your breath, whatever works for you. Maybe exhaling when you lean away. And then maybe inhaling as you start to come back. It takes you a moment. Maybe your exhale hits when you hit that side angle again. If you had a design on your t-shirt, it would be shining straight towards the side of your mat. Perfect. Bring it back up to warrior 2. And then you just kind of get to let this front knee straighten and then bend. So arms might drop when you straighten, relax those shoulders, and then they might reach again when you bend. Just see how that knee feels. Obviously, the wider your stance, the more challenge you're going to feel here. Last one. Perfect. Go ahead and stand up from that warrior, and then you're just going to turn your toes so that they both face the sides. Yep, so you're either facing the wall or whatever direction makes sense. And then 2 options. You can just stay tall and maybe make yourself into kind of like a big X shape for a moment, or it might feel nice to fold. Some of you are softening your knees already and beginning to fold down through the middle. If you have something to reach for, great. If you don't, that's fine too. You can kind of just hang out here. If you know that when you start to fold forward in big shapes like this, your blood pressure starts to drop or you start to feel any kind of lightheadedness, you might bring yourself up halfway and just let your hands rest more on your knees so that your head is not quite below your heart. See what shape makes most sense to you. Watching to feel the low back, making sure it's not getting any tension in it. Bending the knees usually helps with that, flattening out that spine. All right, friends, take your time to slowly come up. You can roll up one vertebra or maybe halfway, but always inhale. That's huge. The inhale needs to be a part as we stand up tall. All right, if you're confident in not having something to look at, all you gotta do now is turn your opposite foot to the back of your mat now. Bend that knee so your right foot turns, your left foot stays parallel. Your arms reach out to T, you can do it. Trust the sound of my voice. Trust your own body. All right, take that right hand, flip it towards the sky, and then start sweeping those ceiling tiles, leaning into that peaceful warrior. Finding your side angle when it feels appropriate, elbow looking for that knee, back arm kind of sliding its way up and over. Yep, you got it. Good bend in that knee. Shining whatever design on your t-shirt to the side. We're back to warrior with one more round of dance. Leaning away when you feel ready. And then through your side angle. Keeping that chest up. Top shoulder turned. Beautiful. Back to warrior two. And then that dynamic movement. Knee straightens, hands drop. Knee bends, hands reach out. So we did about 5 or 6 of these last time, depending on how fast you were moving. We were kind of all following our own breath, so just kind of move in and out of that shape. Choosing to look forward towards that front hand or off to the side. Last one. Back up to a straight leg, begin to turn the feet again. Option to forward fold, or maybe you just kind of sway in your hips, right and left, or you can take that big letter X shape. Knowing that it's never a competition, you listen to your own body, see what feels good to you. Never any need to push yourself beyond what the body might be asking for. All right, use that next inhale breath to slowly bring yourself up, maybe halfway or all the way, depending on how your spine feels. Always inhaling when we come to standing. And then just turn your ankles on, let them heel, toe you back to the center standing point. Now you can stay facing this side if you want, or you can turn back to the front of your mat. We're going to do a tree pose and then begin to move ourselves back down to the earth. So for tree pose, we're in a balanced shape. Depending on how cushy your mat is, yep, some of you have already done it, you might choose to step off your mat and use the hard floor rather than that cushion. Sometimes it can kind of play with your balance. Right foot finds itself into earth, maybe left foot kickstands or left toe on the ground. Maybe we slide that left foot up to inner calf, hips are square, hands perhaps at the heart, maybe above your head. You guys decide where you feel best. Find something to stare at that's not moving. So not another person, maybe a point on the wall or somewhere out in the middle of our space. Perfect. Take your time to bring that lifted foot down towards the ground. Hips might roll a little bit in a circle. Ankles might get a little play. Muscles of the feet, and then you're ready for the other side. So again, imagining roots of the tree growing out of that bottom foot. Hips are square. Really find a place of focus, standing still, forcing our body to Take a very static shape on one foot. You can often turn on a little bit of internal fight. So give yourself some grace. Standing on one foot isn't working quite as well as you hope today. Taking your time to come out of that shape, foot comes down to earth, hips sway side to side, rolling ankles or feet. And then I want, while you're standing up, just to kind of assess your space. Look for things that you might like to have nearby when you hit Savasana, so that you're not crawling around on the floor looking for things. So maybe a block, maybe a blanket. My space tends to get cluttery. All right, when you're ready, we're gonna work our way down to the floor. Two options. You can just take whatever way you want to meet me down on your seat, or you might decide to take a big forward fold. Maybe you soften the knees into a knees together squat, or squat with your knees outward. You might stay in that squat for a breath or two, or three, or you might just slowly start to bring your seat down to the earth. Once you find yourself on the ground, take your time. We're going to start in bound angle, so our feet will come together. Now, I've taught a little more yoga this week than I have in a while. So I'm going to reach for a set of blocks to prop up the outer edges of my knees. If that feels good to you, you can go ahead. You can be reclined on your back already, or you can just go ahead and do this bound angle seated, whatever works for you. Maybe folding into your toes, relaxing your shoulders, your head, your neck, or maybe just sitting nice and tall, playing with any neck stretches that might make sense. As the body feels ready, we'll inhale and stand the knees back towards center, feet planting themselves on earth. Walking those hips a little closer to your heels, and then start to head back to your back. If you want to take your blanket as a pillow, or maybe a weight across your belly, feel free. Oftentimes when we first hit the ground, we need some movement, so feel free to sway a little bit side to side, hug the knees to chest, take a happy baby, any of the shapes that make sense to you in your body, just as we start to settle down. I want to remind you that for now, until about, we got about 3 or 4 more minutes before I will fully release you to Savasana, but if you hit the floor and your body said, nope, I would just like to relax, you can stop listening to me and move into your Savasana at any point in time. So as we are rested here on your back, it might make sense to hit that same figure 4 shape one more time, but maybe take it up one level, now that we're a little more open through our hips today. Your right foot or your left foot, whichever one you want to start with, might go to the sky and then bring itself over to the opposite knee. You can do the same figure 4 that you did on your back here, or you might choose to welcome the foot up off the earth. Maybe reach around the backs of the thighs, or one hand through the opening you've created, the other hand around the back of that thigh. Just rock yourself side to side. Maybe massage the ankles by giving them some movement here, pointing and flexing, rolling. Nothing forced though, so if this shape isn't working for you today, you can certainly come out. After you've had a moment or two on this side, it might make sense to go ahead and switch, bringing foot back down, carefully unwinding from that stretch and switching sides. Remembering that coming out of the pose is just as important as the care that we put into going to start the pose. So give yourself the time necessary to transition, adjust, move in with care, body awareness, and then we're in a new shape. Outer edges of the hips getting some nice stretch, pointing, flexing toes, rolling ankles. After you've had a few moments on this side, just as you did before, take your time. That same care to this side as we start to come out of that shape. Any remaining shapes that make sense in your body, you're welcome to embrace those. I'm going to walk you through a bridge pose, but if you want to move into Savasana now, you certainly are welcome to. You might start to walk the heels of your feet a little closer to your glutes. I've got a block nearby, so my bridge is going to be supported today. Lifting hips up off the ground, you might slide a block underneath your back. Get into a shape where your knees are slightly higher than your heart. It's a gentle inversion here for several breaths. Of course, knowing at any time if you'd like to elevate your feet towards the sky and take this into more of a waterfall pose with the block underneath or not, you're certainly welcome to do so. If either of those doesn't sound real great to you today and you want your own thing, you certainly can have it. Even if that own thing is just a resting pose. As much as you can for the remainder of our time together, see if you can close your eyes. Relax the muscles of your face, neck, your shoulders. Let your body feel heavy on the earth. If you've had your legs lifted to that waterfall pose, gently start to work them back down. Maybe if you've had a block under your back, it might make sense to slowly begin to remove that block, letting the seat and the hips find their way to touch your mat. And then move into whatever shape you'd like to call your final resting pose today, whether that be bent knees, walking towards the edges of the mat, but just letting those knees kind of crash into one another for constructive rest. Very therapeutic to any of us who experience low back pains tenderness in the spine. Maybe another option might be traditional Savasana with legs fully extended down the mat, heels in place, but letting those toes roll towards outer edges. Maybe hands resting on the belly or the heart, out to the side in an X, or just gently down by the hips. Third and final option might be a side lying pose. If at any point in time you'd like to just roll to rest in somewhat of a fetal position on one side or the other, usually right is what I suggest, but sometimes we have different issues that might involve us laying on our left. If you need that shape too, that works. But take whatever you might need here for the final moments of today's time together, just to let everything settle back into place. The physical work of our practice today is completed. Now it's time to give your body that much needed meditative rest here on your back. If at any point in time you feel your mind pulling you from this space, feel free to give it a gentle, calm invitation to come back, focusing on your breath. Inhaling a sense of peace. Exhaling love to release. Slowly starting to become aware of your breath, allowing gentle movements back into the body, whether those be wiggles of fingers or toes, swaying of the head side to side. Maybe bending the knees and walking the feet slowly closer to you, rolling to rest on one side or the other. Oftentimes we suggest the right just to elevate the heart for a few moments, but just take your time, moving your way back to whatever seated posture feels best to you to close out your class time with us today. Our final reading is entitled Life Itself Holds All the Answers. One of the most effective ways to learn to live well is to observe life itself. At the end of your day today, just before sleep, ask yourself, what did I learn about my life today? Whatever the answer, rejoice in your awareness. What did I learn about my life today? I greatly appreciate you making this time not only for your physical body to come and move and breathe and stretch, relax, but also bringing your mind and spirit here to release and sift as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again. Namaste. Thank you guys so much. It's nice to see you all again.